1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 1, 7, 2, 7, 3, 7, 4, 7, 5, 7, 6, 7, 7, 7, 7, 1, 7, 7, 2, 7, 7, 3, 7, 7, 4, 7, 7, 5, 7, 7, 6, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 1, 7, 7, 7, 2, 7, 7, 7, 3, 7, 7, 7, 4, 7, 7, 7, 5, 7, 7, 7, 6, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 1, 7, 7, 7, 7, 2, 7, 7, 7, 7, 3, 7, 7, 7, 7, 4, 7, 7, 7, 7, 5, 7, 7, 7, 7, 6, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 1, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 2, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 3, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 4, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 5, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 6, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 1, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 2, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 3, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 4, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 5, 7, 7, 7, 7, 6, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. That's about as simple as any music can be. Almost naive. You probably were able to memorize it on one hearing, even if you don't know French very well. Children always love these pieces. When I do them in schools, they always want to count along. In French, you call them comptines, and in almost every language, children have little counting songs that they like to sing and talk. And in this case, they don't even realize they're doing music. They just start counting. When I've done these things in primary schools, which doesn't happen very often, kids always want to count along, and they love counting in different languages. And there's always one little kid in the class who says, 8 years old, hey, I can count in Vietnamese. So all the others want to hear what it sounds like to count in Vietnamese. And so they all learn how to count in Vietnamese, and you make another little piece together in Vietnamese, and another comptine, another counting piece. So then another kid knows how to count in Bambara or Arabic or Mandarin or whatever. And they learn each other's languages. So it's great sociologically for the kids to know each other and understand the different ethnic groups that they come from. But it's good musically too. I don't know exactly where this started, but I do remember that one hot summer afternoon on Coney Island, I was at the beach all by myself, and I started counting. I had studied French and German and a little Spanish. I learned how to count to 7 in Russian because I sang in the Yale Russian chorus. And I had made a trip to Japan in 1963 when I was on vacation in the U.S. Army. And so I learned how to count to 7 in Japanese also. So I was counting in all these different languages that I knew, and finding that each one had a different sound, a different rhythm, made a different music. So I liked this, and I wanted to learn more languages. So after that, every time I met somebody who was a native speaker from a language that I didn't know, I asked them to teach me how to count in their language. And so I always learned from native speakers and tried to pronounce as accurately as I could. And gradually accumulated more languages. And then I was doing little performances in sound poetry contexts and sometimes in concerts of these little counting pieces. This all remained in my head though, but many years later, other people were wanting to learn these things, and we thought, well, it really should be written down. So, but I didn't do it myself. I asked Gilbert Delor, my musicologist friend, to do the edition, which he did. He put together these 12 languages and made a little score. There's the French, for example. As you can see, there's no pitches notated. It's just the numbers and the rhythm. There's a key in the back about it gives vague pronunciation rules as accurate as possible for how to pronounce the numbers in these languages. There's another piece that is pretty well known now. We won't show you this because there's been a lot of performances of the counting duets in English and German, Hungarian. I remember wonderful performance in Hungarian, many other languages. There's even now a version on YouTube. Some young musicians in Michigan who count all the counting duets, all 5 movements. We'll note that in the credits. Also, Christophe Capes and Paul-Alexandre Dubois, I should mention, because they did this counting duets in French very often for quite a while. There was another piece called Counting Fives. There's a little diagram of the counting fives, all the 4 ways that you can make a rhythmic canon of 5 notes in a cycle of 10. And I used all those ways in this little piece, which is a solo for a person who counts one voice and can tap his feet for the other voice or play with 2 percussion instruments or whatever he wants. There's another piece, Counting Keys for piano. This is 5 movements. We'll show you the score there, a drawing for the 5th movement, which starts just with the low note 1, and it goes 1, 1, 2, 1, 1. Then it's 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, so forth. Gradually climbing up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, so forth. Goes up to 8, and then comes back down. But I want you to see the drawing I did of, these are 4 different ways, so you can kind of study the different sequences, different ways of making logical sequences of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The French on the right you've already heard. The German on the left. 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, 1, 7, and then 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, and all the zwei's, and then the 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, and so forth. At the bottom is Tajik, the language of Tajikistan. That's a little more complicated because you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but also you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 5, 6, 4, 7, 1. That's kind of hard to do as a solo, but with 2 voices it's really, it's easy. Up the top is the sequence, another logic that I used for Hungarian. I remember learning Hungarian the first time I went to Budapest. I wanted to learn how to count in Hungarian, and my Hungarian friends helped me to try to get it right. And ended up with this little piece, which I want you to hear in a recording that I made many years ago. I won't explain it because I think if you listen carefully and follow the drawing there up at the top of the page, you'll understand everything without knowing a word of Hungarian. My interpretation of Hungarian language is not really fair. I'm a little brutal, tough with that. And of course, you can also make love in Hungarian or sing lullabies or whatever you want to do. But that was the way I heard the numbers 1 to 70 in Hungarian. I found that every language seems to have another tempo and another sound. And that was one of the things that interested me in these pieces. Each one had another character. But I haven't mentioned Charlie Morrow yet, and he's kind of important in this county music. Charlie is a composer about my age who I knew in the 70s in New York. He was very interested in sound poetry, all kinds of sound poetry. He did a lot of chanting, but also counting. And he used to count for me, and I would count for him, and we would talk about all of that. Later he did a full evening piece in Phil Neblock's loft called the number 6, where he just counted for a long time on with 6 microphones. I did an article about that in the Village Voice, and I liked that piece very much. It helped me to find my own counting music. Later, Charlie did more sound installations, including permanent ones for big museums, things like that. Less concert music. But so we kind of went different directions, but I still I keep in touch with him, and I always like to mention him as a fellow traveler on this road to county music. People sometimes say, Tom Johnson is a composer who counts. Well, this is kind of flattering, but it's also a little bit of a caricature of who I am. But that's okay. This, as an example, is a group from a small town in Germany. Decided to do a concert of works by Tom Johnson. It's just called the Ad Hoc Ensemble. But they billed it as Musik erzählt. Erzählt means narrated, told, and gezählt means counted. So this was narrated counting music. And I realized you can make the same wordplay in English between counted and recounted. And that's where I got the idea of calling this video Recounting Counting. But let's look at another diagram of counting sequences. So here's 4 other ways of counting to 7. At the top is Russian. It seems to go slower, especially when you get to 4, 5. I don't know. That's the way I heard Russian anyway. And that was very different from Italian, for example, which wants to go very fast. On the right, you have Indonesian, which looks a little bit like the French, but the rhythm is very different. And it starts satu, 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 dua, satu, dua, satu, dua. So there's a lot of silences where you just click the beats. At the bottom is a Hebrew, which I learned in an airplane one day. I was sitting next to a woman who lived in Israel, and Hebrew was her native language. So I asked her, how do you count in Hebrew? And she told me, and we worked on that for a while. And later I wrote achat, shtaim, shtaim. Then it's 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 3, so forth in Hebrew. That language also seems to want to go slower, at least for me. Curiously, it seems politically incorrect to have Hebrew and not Arabic, but I found that counting to Arabic is almost the same words as counting to Hebrew. So I suppose if I ever have to give a concert in Baghdad, I'll just count in Hebrew and change the pronunciation a little bit and tell them that I'm counting in Arabic. The one on the left, though, is special. This is Mandingue. It's a language that's spoken by about 5 million people in Senegal and Mali. And this is special for me because we're going to hear a version by Ensemble Dedalus. Ensemble Dedalus, who played my rational melodies and a lot of my music, and they're good friends, they decided they wanted to do these counting pieces with 7 speakers. Well, that was a great idea. To have 7 different voices counting to 7 gave me many new possibilities. So I wrote a lot of new pieces for them. There's a kind of a choral piece where they all count in Mandarin. And there's an Aboriginal language, one of the few Aboriginal languages which has been documented further than 5. Could count to 7 in that language. There's a Swahili version, which is solo chorus, Georgian, quite a few different languages, including a long list of dead South American, Central American, and North American languages. We could just give the list. Anyway, we put together over 20 of these languages, rehearsed for a week in a space in La Creuse, and then Delor gave concerts in Montpellier and Paris and Brooklyn, and they're going to perform it again next spring, a couple of times at least. So, well, let's listen to how they do this piece in Mandingue with 7 speakers and 7 percussion instruments.
Kele. Kele fita, kele fita fita. Kele fita fita saba, kele fita fita saba saba. Kele fita fita saba saba saba. Kele fita fita saba 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 nani. Kele fita fita saba 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 nani nani. Kele fita fita saba 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 nani nani nani. Kele fita fita saba 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 nani 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 nani. Kele fita fita saba 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 nani 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 lolu. Kele fita fita saba 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 nani 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 lolu lolu. Kele fita fita saba 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 nani 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 lolu lolu lolu. Kele fita fita saba 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 nani 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 lolu 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 lolu. Kele fita fita saba 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 nani 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 lolu 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 lolu. Kele fita fita saba 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 nani 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 lolu 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 wolo. Kele fita fita saba 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 nani 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 lolu 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 wolo wolo. Kele fita fita saba 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 nani 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 lolu 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 wolo wolo wolo. Kele fita fita saba 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 nani 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 lolu 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 wolo 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 wolo. Kele fita fita saba 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 nani 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 lolu 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 wolo 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 wolo. Kele fita fita saba 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 nani 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 lolu 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 wolo 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 wolo. Fita fita saba 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 nani 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 lolu 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 wolo 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 via. Kele fita fita saba 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 nani 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 lolu 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 wolo 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 che le fita fita samba 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 nani 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 lolu 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 wolo 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 che le fita fita samba 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 nani 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 lolu 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 wolo 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 che le fita fita samba 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 nani 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 lolu 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 wolo che le fita fita samba 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 nani 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 lolu 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 che le fita fita samba 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 nani 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 lolu 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 lolu
I'm very proud of that piece, and I love the performance of Dedalus with so much energy and so accurate. And with the percussion instruments, that last one especially is very special instrument, and they do it so well. This, I think, is really the apex of my counting music, with this full evening program done so well. And I don't think I want to do any more counting music. I don't think I can do better than that. But I still like to go back and listen to some of those very simple, almost naive counting pieces that I started with the young Tom Johnson's voice. And this reminds me of my first piano teacher, Rita Hutcherson in Colorado, when I was a teenager learning the piano. And she came to visit me at the age of more than 80. She came to visit me in Paris. I was one of her best students, and she was my beloved piano teacher who had got me started in music. And of course we talked about the Bach preludes and fugues, which I had first learned in her studio. And I liked the C-sharp minor prelude, and she remembered the G major fugue, and also we talked about which ones we liked, which ones we didn't like so much, and book one versus book two and everything. And but then she said something that is very true and really touched me. She said, "One thing I know, I'm sure about, is that those little pieces of Bach are more beautiful every year." She'd been listening to this music and teaching it for 40 years or more, so she knew what she was talking about. And I think she was right. They're more beautiful for me with each year too. And even that little counting piece in French seems to get better all the time.